Good morning, Doug Fry, the Assistant Commissioner Road Police, Victoria Police. At about 11 p.m. last night, one of our Northern Suburbs High Patrol units observed a vehicle up in Dundas Street, Northcote, and they've decided to go and intercept that vehicle. When they did that, they did a U-turn and attempted to follow the car. It turned down Victoria Road in Northcote at a fast rate of speed. One of their first observations was that car hit a parked car, and at that stage they decided to intercept it, put their lights and sirens on and attempted to do that. In a very short space of time, that vehicle accelerated very heavily, certainly at least twice the speed limit, and it then came to grief down the road where the male driver of that car passed away at the scene. So the entire incident probably took about 30 seconds from the time we attempted to intercept it until the time the crash occurred. So the vehicle hit two parked cars and a brick fence, and the male driver, we believe to be in his 30s, we yet to properly identify him, died at the scene. I'm happy to take questions.
Why did the police decide to try and intercept him to begin with?
So when they first saw the vehicle was travelling at a rate of speed that was a concern to them, so they decided to do a routine intercept, so they had to do a U-turn in Dundas Street to go after that car. And as soon as they performed the intercept, that vehicle that they were after accelerated very heavily and took off down Victoria Road in Northcote, and in a very short amount of time come to grief by hitting another two parked cars and then a fence.
Have we been able to confirm if the car was stolen?
We don't believe the car to be stolen. We're still making inquiries. We believe it to be a New South Wales vehicle. It's a Holden Commodore station wagon. And certainly our members complied with our pursuit policy. You'd be aware that we changed our pursuit policy last year to provide a little bit more flexibility of when they could engage, and certainly they've complied with that policy. And you may well ask, why and how did this happen? And I want to say this. Our members attempted to intercept a vehicle, and the male driver made a conscious decision not to comply with that request. The male driver made a conscious decision to drive at speed, at reckless speed. We believe there was no seatbelt worn. We think that there's alcohol involved, and unfortunately it's had fatal consequences. Thankfully, no one else was injured.
How fast was the car?
So we've got our experts out there from the Major Collision Investigation Unit, and early indications are at least double the speed limit, so in excess of 120k, if not more.
You said alcohol's involved, so is that perhaps why he didn't stop?
Well, we don't know why he didn't stop. What we do know is he made a conscious decision not to stop. He made a conscious decision when indicated by the police to pull over, to accelerate heavily, to drive recklessly. There were other vehicles on the road. Our police members were on the road. And whilst tragic that this male occupant died, thankfully no one else did, no other member of the public and none of my members.
What happens now in terms of the investigation?
So we've got the Major Collision Investigation Unit doing the scene. They're being oversighted by our Professional Standards Command. We've had the State Coroner attend the scene last night at about 3:30 in the morning. She will oversight that investigation, so it will be a coroner's investigation. So we've got adequate oversight of what's going on. We've got the professionals out there measuring the scene, and the scene will be closed. And the main scene is spread over about 100 metres on Victoria Road, and that'll be closed at least till 9 or 9:30 this morning.
Just to clarify this, so did you say the police saw that the car had hit a parked car before they tried to intercept?
That's correct. So our members, our Highway Patrol members, and might I say very experienced Highway Patrol members and being driven by a Highway Patrol sergeant, they first observed the vehicle travelling in the opposite direction to them, and they, at a rate of speed that indicated to them that they wanted to go and check that car, which they're obviously entitled to do. So they've done a U-turn, they've then turned right, following that vehicle into Victoria Road, and as soon as they've turned right into Victoria Road, they've seen the vehicle in question hit a parked car. At that stage they hadn't even turned their lights and bells on. It was at that stage they realised how serious it was and the need to intercept that vehicle, so they put their lights and bells on in an attempt to intercept. My advice from when they called it as a pursuit to when the crash happens, less than 10 seconds.
Are there any reports of that car being involved in other incidents before?
No, not at this stage. So we've made inquiries. The vehicle's certainly registered, and the plates on it match the car, are registered to a New South Wales address, and we've got New South Wales Police making inquiries. But I want to be really clear about this, and police pursuits are always topical. The Victoria Police have an absolute obligation to keep our roads safe, and we do that by intercepting vehicles that make it unsafe. Our members last night attempted to intercept a vehicle and that occupant made a very conscious decision not to pull over when indicated to do so. The occupant made a conscious decision to drive at reckless speed, dangerous speed, and ironically at a fatal speed. There were other road users on the road. He almost had a head-on with another vehicle coming up Victoria Road. Thankfully that didn't happen. And as I said, all of this will be oversighted by the coroner and our Ethical Standards Command.
When you say almost had a head-on, was that because he was driving along the side of the road?
My understanding, his driving was so reckless that he was all over the shop. And you've got to bear in mind this was very dynamic. By the time our members lit him up, it was about 10 to 15 seconds between that and when he came to grief. So we did have vehicles heading northbound on Victoria Road. He was heading southbound. And at that sort of speed, you don't want to be anywhere near it in excess of double the speed limit.
And you said no seatbelt, he was thrown from the car.
He was thrown from the vehicle and suffered multiple injuries, head injuries and fatal injuries.
So just to clarify, do you know anything about him, his identity and any relationship with police?
So at this stage we have not identified the male driver. We believe him to be in his 30s and we're working with investigators to figure out who it is so we can contact next of kin.
When do you think the identity might be made?
I'd be optimistic that by the end of the day we'll know who the driver was.
Do you have dashcam footage or any kind of footage of the incident?
So my understanding is the investigators are making a sweep of the neighbourhood, so they're doing door-to-door inquiries to see who might have had security vision and things like that, just to get any footage that's available so we can piece this together. But it was very dynamic, it happened very quickly, as these things often do, and our members made a conscious decision that the risk that they saw in front of them warranted them intercepting them, and they have my 100% support in the decision that they made on that.
Did residents run out to help when they heard the crash, or was he hit that fence pretty hard?
So the first people who were there to help the driver who ended up dying were our two police members. So a police sergeant and a policewoman were the first on scene. They attempted to assist the man, but he died at the scene pretty much straight away. And no doubt occupants would have come out after hearing the collision. So he's hit one car. That has then caused us to know that there was a serious risk to the health and safety of the community. They've lit him up and tried to intercept him. He is then at significant speed tried to pull away and has collided almost instantaneously with two parked cars and a brick fence.
How far was he thrown from the vehicle?
I'm not sure about that. I think he was relatively close to the vehicle.
So another subject, that's all right. The cyclists now want 30k speed limits in the city, and also want to be able to ride bikes on footpaths.
Yeah, so the whole basis of road safety and vehicle safety is as much as possible separate the vulnerable road users. So the idea and the experts across the globe, separate their cyclists from vehicles as much as you can. So the idea of separating two vulnerable road users, being pedestrians and cyclists, is absolutely sound. The idea of putting the two of them together is not a wise move at all. If you've got elderly people in amongst push bikes travelling at 30 kilometres an hour, that's a recipe for people getting hurt, if not worse.
30k speed limits, is that too slow, do you think?
You know what, there's often the discussion around what's the appropriate speed limit, and when we went to 40 kilometres an hour, I think it was in 2012, and the CBD, everyone was up in arms about it. Now everyone absolutely accepts that it's the right speed. What we do know, the slower you go, the less chance you've got of being serious or fatally injured. So it's probably a discussion we still need to have, and I haven't been actively involved in it as yet, but happy to join the debate.
The death toll from the bus crash near Shepparton has gone to 3 now. Are you expecting to lay more charges on the taxi driver?
Yes, we will be. So the taxi driver's already been charged in relation to that. This is a tragic set of circumstances. You had a busload of elderly people involved in a crash. We've now had 3 people die out of that crash, and we cross our fingers that it's not more. It could well be more than the triple that it already is. So we've got a number of people still seriously injured in hospital, and they are not out of the woods yet. So we hope that doesn't happen, but it could well be more. Good. Thank you.